He found out how to scare people on the ground. We are at the point where it's sometimes really getting dangerous. My name is Antonia Ramel, and this is Ia. He's a 9-year-old gelding. I had him now for 2 years. It's a really good horse and I enjoy riding him a lot. He has a lot of potential, but on the ground he's very sharp, and he found out how to scare people on the ground. If you try to tell him off or ask for your own space, he will come after you. So he actually either goes on the hind legs and tries to hit you with the front legs, or he tries to bite you, or he refuses to walk. We have tried everything from walking with a bridle that he gets even more upset about when he can't be active trying to bite you, or to putting a muzzle on him. That really upsets him. Chain is not working at all because he is reacting really a lot on the chain. So then he really goes on the hind legs and he takes off. We are in the situation we don't know how to solve it, but we are at the point where it's sometimes really getting dangerous because he's damaging himself, of course, and there's a risk of that he's actually damaging people around him.
Nice to see you.
You too.
So tell me, what's the story?
So I have a 9-year-old gelding. I bought him when he was 7. He's a very, very talented horse by Chanel UB40. And he's very sharp on the ground. I had a lot of horses that could be difficult on the ground, but this is the only one we can't, because he gets back at you. So if you try to tell him off, if you stop and try to reverse him, he gets at you. So that's him.
Okay, well, let's take a look. I think best is if you just put some boots and what you would normally ride, and also bell boots and things.
Yeah.
And then, we take him in the arena.
In the arena.
See what we can do.
Sounds good. It's okay. Okay.
So I think the best is just you can start just to walk him a little bit, and then I can see how the dynamic is between you both. Oh, my fault. Test one.
Test one. Come on.
So guys, a horse with a high level of intelligence and a problem that is quite common, especially in sport horses. A modern horse with a lot of power, a lot of sensitivity, and is governed by his previous memory and experience and emotions to all the events leading till now. It is a horse that is, of course, competing in a high level of dressage, so he's expressing a lot of power and energy in his work, and that is predominantly what's taking over his body. I will change halters, and then I will feel a little bit. And I just start by trying to bring some attention to his body, so he can feel a little bit what's happening on the inside of his body. So I just bring his focus to what's happening to the muscles and to the tension and what it feels like, just bringing awareness to himself about what's happening. And so for the same reason he is jumping around and he's finding certain levels of frustration in the body, he will also search and find for the relaxation as well. Because of course this doesn't involve fear or frustration, it just becomes knowledge. But to learn what to do with yourself, you have to learn first line who you are, who is myself, what is happening. There's a lot of things happening in his body that he's unaware of. His body's doing things without him knowing it. So the part of being able to let him become aware of the inside of his body, and that he can be a good decision maker in changing the way he feels in his body, so he's not becoming a slave to the situation, to the body coming, the energy coming into his body and him not knowing what to do with it. Maybe he's also not even aware of what's happening, that the way he walks, the way his posture is putting him into a state of readiness. Now you see when he's walking, he's not walking like this. He walks like this. So his physiology is triggering his brain to think, be switched on, be sensitive. If I hear a noise, he's sort of not in this level of relaxation, but he's kind of in this state of readiness all the time. When he's in a slight state of readiness and something happens, it doesn't take much for that to get into a level of frustration. He's having a lot of energy that is projected in one direction. And when you have energy in your body that's projected in one direction, you don't know how to control that. You get very much into a pattern of frustration. So Eeyore is fighting all the time the circulation of energy in his body. And when you add a person to that, you become the moment of restraint. You are containing that energy that's built up in their body. And then we get the outcome, the undesired behavior, the symptom, the jumping around, the not being able to lead. All these kind of things is a byproduct. It is the symptom of a horse not being able to manage his energy and how to release tension in the body. And then we want to be able to start to teach him a little bit the order of movement in his body. So at the moment, because he has so much energy coming in and not knowing how to let the energy out, he's in a forward movement all of the time. So the gas is on and the energy is going forward in the body, and if we want to stop, we don't take our foot off the gas, we just put the brake on at the same time. And so I want to be able to teach him just simply the movement in his body to be able to release that tension. And so when we ask him to move the front, he wants to step forward all of the time. Where the front leg is going to want to step over me. And then when the front legs want to step over you, and we're asking them to step now backwards and across. So behind, across, good boy. The jumping up is exactly that, accelerator on, brake at the same time. So this is like a conflict of energy within the body. This is the burnout that the car does when we put the accelerator and the brake on at the same time. In the beginning, first exercise is of course difficult because his body for however long has been unconsciously going in this space. So to be able to change that, which is a habit, he has to consciously think a few times about where that space is, bring his attention to that space in a way that he focuses on it. He then has to think, how do I get my body backwards out of this space? And so we have to repeat that a little bit in the beginning because it has to be a conscious thing in which he has to think about to be able to control that in the start. I just want him to be able to start to feel, just like he started to feel in the neck and through the skin that there's a release of tension. I want him to be able to feel the possibility of this step. This behind and across movement, much better. So if his energy's always going this way, creating tension, and he always wants to go forward or come into you, we are teaching them that this is possible. We can go here, which is going to release the tension. So this becomes the exercise to change the direction of energy in the body. And then I start to walk with him in the rookie position. So I walk faster, and then I walk slower. And I want him just to focus here on this bit. So I don't put any focus and attention on him. I only focus on the space that he needs to become aware of. Boy, then we walk again, a little bit faster, a little bit slower, oh, and then forward again. So now we get the first steps of self-management. Oh, good boy. Then I also change the body language, and then I reward him for that bit. So he also realizes this is not an exercise about getting away from me. Because if we're also telling him to create distance by pushing him away, you get another problem. Then the head's one eye away, two eye away, and then he thinks it's about getting away from you. And it has to not be about the conflict between you and him. It has to be about him and him being aware of the space in which he's in. And that first moment we saw that I was walking in front of him and I sped up and I slowed down and he made that one step slowing down. And you see the change in the mind and the physiology, the chewing, like, oh my God, I've just taken control of myself in a situation where I normally have no control. And so when we go on from there, he's already in a state of realizing change, that it doesn't have to be the way it is, that actually there's a sense that I can do something in my body that's going to make me feel in control and better and less frustrated. So there you see the session starts to get easier and easier. Easier explanation. He starts to get more awareness of his body. And you'll start to slowly notice the more responsibility he takes of himself, the less busy he will be. The less frustration there is. So now we just teach him an order of movement in the body, that he has full coordination over all of his legs, forward, back, left, and right. I ask him with the whip so I can have more distance to give him more responsibility. So the further I'm able to be away from him when asking something, the more the job is on him. I'm not next to him, managing him, manhandling him. I let him be more and more doing it on his own. But he has to understand also the meaning of the whip. That the whip is not something he has to run away from, but something he has to follow. And then we start to move the front legs here more from a distance. So there he takes a forward step, behind, across, behind, across, behind, across. Very good. Then we think about now moving the hind leg. So we open up the front leg first, right front. And then we want left hind to take a forward step, and we don't want left front to come in. So I ask now left hind to go under, and he brings the left shoulder in on top of me. This is the step we want. So we show him first where the energy is going out. So right front leg, and he'll have some moments where he has a clash in his body, where sometimes he will have the gas on and the brake at the same time. There's a good step, there's a good step. The most important thing in working with a horse like this is that we can separate ourselves from that situation and very much be the person that is guiding him to become aware and look at himself. This is not a battle between me and him. I am not there to control him, to tell him where to be, to tell him to stop doing something. Right front I'm looking for, there it is. Very good. Very good. Again, right front. Yes. Left hind. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 Oh. Yeah. Yes. Good boy. Yeah. Oh. Oh. This shape. Good boy. So then you see a clear contrast between, I don't know where to put this. Everything's going everywhere. Hang on a minute. I've just found a way of moving that makes me feel like I've got my shit together. Yeah, good boy. I'm there to motivate him about finding out about himself. How is he going to move in an order where he feels in control and doesn't feel frustrated? And I'm going to be in a position where I really want to reward him for that. Tell him, yes, you're nearly there, you're getting it, you're starting to, yes, we arrived. And he thinks, wow, I want to do that again. Instead of being in this position where we're telling him off for something he has no control of. So we don't have to have it that we have these steps perfect before we start to test it. Before we give him a task to be able to use this newfound knowledge. It becomes a new tool in the toolkit. Okay, I know how to keep my shit together and know where I'm at and manage myself. And then we teach him the management of himself in the presence of something. So I first just create a pressure in the space, and then I see where his body reacts. So because he's highly intelligent, he takes the right step the first time. So at this point, from step one, how we entered the ring today till now, it's about his capacity in how much he can change and acknowledge and feel and absorb. And normally when we get to this stage, if you're to do more, you're just doing a whole lot of stuff, but none of it's really going in. The head is full and he's done. You can see by the look of him. And of course, he hasn't done a lot of physical work, but the brain changes, the physiology changes, the body's changing. And this will repeat on him. This will continue to go on. And he's in the box for the next hour. He'll be feeling in his body this directional change of energy and the empowerment of knowing where to move differently. And why he will choose to move differently is because it feels better. He won't allow himself to go, he'll start to go, oh, hang on. Oh yeah, I have to remember this shit. I feel much less frustrated in this position. So actually quite an interesting session, first time. He's a very sweet horse. Yeah. From nature, he has a kind attitude. He wants to do the right thing. But yeah, as you see in the work, he has this confusion in his body, which creates a frustration. And not meaning to be, I don't think he's a horse that means to be aggressive in that way. But at the same time, he has, like, it's, you don't want to be in the wrong place.
No.
Like, it's, you know, if you're there trying to manage it and you're outside or you're walking somewhere and the wind blows up the wrong way, I mean, you don't want to be in the wrong spot. So, and it's like this.
Yeah.
So it's important that, of course, for that reason alone, that, you know, we can rectify and get him to operate in a different way, but also for him, because he lives with the frustration in himself all the time. And as we've seen from the session, it's something that he's trying to deal with, but he's in a conflict with himself. Yeah. So that basic of first the awareness of himself, and that first comes through us relieving ourselves of the job in our minds of controlling him. So every time we're working with him, we have to be thinking of how can we best guide him to think about doing it himself. So to not be in a position where we're, you know, saying you have to be here or don't be here, or being the dictator. We have to really think about how we can guide him within this framework, within these patterns of how he can self-correct. And as we said during the session, that's important so that he's doing that for all the hours he's not with you. Otherwise, the sessions take little effect because he goes into the stable or he goes in the field or the paddock, and he's going to be operating in this system that's going to get him into a state of alertness again, which is the opposite to what we want.
It's very, like, frustrating for yourself as well when you can't find find a way to deal with the problem, because he is not a mean horse. If you go into the stable, he's the most cuddly one of all of them, and he loves touching, he loves everything like that, but it gets to a point where he's not controllable.
And it sits really in that delta between managing him, controlling him, or teaching him to manage himself.
Yeah.
Because you can have all the techniques in the book of how to get him to stop doing something, or to manage him, control him, to restrain him, to get him to do something without doing that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's going to continue to fight against himself, and there'll be always those moments where those two things collide. Yeah. So it really sits in that delta between the transition of, you know, we say all the time in the online that we're teaching people not to control their horses, but to teach people how to teach their horses to be in control of themselves. And that in itself becomes a life skill in which the horse can operate in all of his existence in a comfortable way. The reason he doesn't know how to control a situation is he doesn't know how to control himself. Yeah. If he learns to control himself, he learns to control all situations. Yeah. And from the turnaround from today, there's hope. Yeah. Always the first session is about that. Yeah. You know, this is the assessment. This is to find out where he's at, what he's good at, what he's not good at, and what he needs to learn to be able to get into a happier place. Because of the way his natural operating system is and the order of movement, he has a limitation in his body in everything that he does. So from my experience, a horse that's in this kind of level of tension in the body and frustration and the energy's going in the wrong way and a poor order of movement on the ground, you're probably seeing then in the riding only 50% of his capacity. And then I would suggest the next process is to make an appointment again. I come back, I go through the groundwork, and as I said, I start to just show you basically the exercises we did today. And going through the exercises in the arena is to give you the framework and the conversation and in the way you need to talk to each other in all the things. Going to the truck, getting off at a competition, leading to the field. Every time you're with him, the conversation should be the same. It's about him managing himself. And then when he gets onto a level where he's really feeling that he's in control of himself, he lets go of all the frustration, and then the symptoms go away. You see by the end there where you're standing very close, he's not interested in biting or chewing on us anymore. And that is coming from this tension. So finding the cause is of course really important, which was really clear today. And the fact that he made such a huge turnaround means that he's going to progress very quickly. We can't have a full crystal ball to say, okay, 2 weeks, he's good.
Yeah.
But you can be pretty sure that he's going to participate in this, and he will change fairly quickly himself. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this episode of TRT Rescue. If you liked it, comment below. You know the other buttons to push. Subscribe, click the bell. Stay tuned to this channel because I know the next episode is something you're going to want to see.